Hey everybody, welcome, especially those that came over from Aaron's channel. I'm here with Paul DiCarlo, and this is actually part 5 of the series that we've been working on. We'll, I guess, let's give just maybe a couple minutes for some people to kind of stroll in here, and then maybe we can spend a couple minutes just walking through what we've already built, and then we can move into where we're evolving that to today. Sound good to you, Paul? All right. Yeah, I know it went pretty quick, but I guess that happens when you stream 3 times in 1 week. So I'm curious, anybody here doing any IoT stuff or machine learning or video analytics? Or I guess we touch a lot of things in this project, haven't we? Well, we recreated it in 6 hours. So I guess we've got a few people in here, so let's walk through kind of what we've done. I don't have the camera set up facing the IoT device, but what we are working with is a Jetson Nano. Yes, and what Paul is holding up. Yes. Yeah, so I have 2 of these. I've got one aimed out at the street. I've got one aimed at me. We'll change over to the device here in a second. But we basically have one of these $100 Jetson Nano devices at the edge that is pulling in video from those 2 cameras over RTSP. And here, let me switch over to that. So this is the Nano itself, and you can see me over here sitting at my desk. I'll wave, we're a little glitchy. We've got that device going. And then we've got one pointed out the street. And we are using some Azure stuff and some NVIDIA stuff and mixing it all together to get some object detection. And I guess if we click in on one of these, we can kind of see here, you know, we're detecting cars and things like that, and people as they go check their mail and things of that nature. Then we are collecting metrics on that in JSON and rolling that up into Azure Stream Analytics. And let me switch back over here to my desktop. Yell at me if I'm on the wrong device, because I'm sort of switching back and forth. All right, so let's go to our... Oh, that would be because I did not update your video link. So can we change the scene while it is live? We're going to find out. Properties. Can I do it? All right. We are doing it live. I am modifying OBS now. I still had the old URL for Paul's face from last stream. Let's see. There we go. It works. We did it live. All right.
in the great words of Bill O'Reilly, you have done it live. Hey, we got a kid walking by.
Skateboarding. It's my son out there skateboarding, yeah. So, all right. So we need to find our resource group here. Oh, well, you can't. They can't see that. You can see that because
that's right.
Paul has a secret window into just that screen. Okay, so
you went by so fast.
Yeah, and just sort of an update too. I want to make a speed detector with the camera. Does an MP4 file have time attached to each frame? Yeah, I mean, you could measure time based on the data that's there. I mean, it'd be quite a bit of math to do that, but you could detect how fast something is going. You would have to know how big the scene is.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit yesterday. That one seems to come up a lot. It's almost similar to, I think Aaron had mentioned yesterday, how do you like ensure that people are social distancing, perhaps with like a people detector and a camera. They're almost the same problem. But the hardest part of it comes to the conversion of the view that your camera has. How do you map that into an actual space? And how do you do that accurately? So, if your camera's skewed, you have to do some de-warping to that.
Yeah, it's almost like a cartographer or something, right? Like when you're talking about doing geospatial mapping where you have to kind of unfold the picture.
Right. And once you get that, if you can get it into a two-dimensional sort of representation, then you can start to do, the easy ability to calculate velocity and things like that just by looking at where the items are, and then of course applying the scale factor, which would probably require you to go out there with a measuring stick at some point. Not sure how accurate you would get with that, but I know that there's a number of systems being developed right now that do employ that exact same technique. So it's certainly something that people are doing.
Yeah, and perspective matters, right? So if we're just looking at this picture of the driveway, right? Measuring from left to right or front to back is much easier than on the diagonal because that's not actually,
Right.
So yeah, good luck. That's more math than I think I'm capable of. So we've got all these detections, you see, and that's actually being grouped together on a per camera basis and being pumped up to the cloud, where we have, I guess first stop is actually all of this is being deployed using IoT Edge. So we kind of send the workload to Azure, and Azure knows the device and runs it on the device on our behalf and ensures it stays running. Kind of gives us a central place to manage it all. So once all that data kind of comes up to the cloud, we are pumping it into this Stream Analytics environment. And we're going to click on that link.
No, we're using Stream Analytics to filter the data on the device.
Yes, first.
Which then
we're using time series insight.
Yeah.
All right, and I guess let's check out here. Let's see what kind of data we have. We'll go to the street and we'll kind of show this is where we ended the stream last week, and yesterday last week. And if you haven't seen all of these, they're archived to YouTube. I can dump a link in the channel so that you can watch all the past ones if you want to see how we got here. But as you can see, kind of here, we're tracking vehicles.
Change that time frame. I guess we're looking at 24 hours. Looks like we might.
Yeah. Let's just do like the last 15 minutes and see what we get. There we go. So we're maintaining kind of 3. This is probably when the mail truck drove by. There's been some people driving by and things like that. And then up here, this is all vehicles. I guess we haven't detected much. Let's look at the office and see what kind of stuff we get here. There we go.
There better not be vehicles in the office.
Does that say 9 people?
So when it reports the detections, that is, how many of them that it received in that. I think it gives you a little range there when you were hovering over it. So shouldn't have seen 9, but it's telling you it's had 9 detections essentially within that.
And we should point out too that this device right now is very saturated. So if you watch the video on the device at points, you'll see ghosting. So there is a possibility some of those detections are kind of old frames bleeding in as something moves across, and it's kind of triggering false detections. We talked about it a bit yesterday on sort of a smoothing function you can do to kind of prevent that. But I think we are at a point of saturation where even the smoothing isn't helping.
No. That's like I said, it's the so the detections. It's telling you like within.
In that window
has been X amount reported due to the way that query is written.
Yeah. Let's see.
So it's not saying there's 44 people. It's saying there were 44 detections of people in that range.
So this isn't our average because we collected an average too.
Right.
All right, so this is where we ended last stream yesterday. If you have questions, feel free to pour them at us. Also, I'm going to drop a link to the GitHub project where you can follow along with all of this too. I believe Paul has been updating this project as well with links to the videos that we've recorded for each of the sections too.
Yep, they should all be up. Everything should be up to date if you're wanting to backtrack on some of this content.
Okay, so this week we were going to try to take all of this information and try to create a dashboard. And I think you mentioned some NLP stuff too.
It might look like that. So we're gonna use Stream Analytics again today, but we're gonna now use it on the cloud. And essentially, the way we're using it is to forward data from our IoT Hub. We're going to do a simple, it's kind of a pattern, a pass-through pattern that'll essentially just send literally the same data. And the reason we're doing that is because Power BI happens to be one of the output sinks for cloud-based stream analytics jobs. And so that gives us a nice little pipeline to go from device doing object detections to IoT Hub in Azure to Power BI via this stream analytics job that'll be running in the cloud. And so instead of it being a filter, this is going to be like a forwarder. So it's using the same technology, just in a different way and in a different place.
And now Power BI is going to be really interesting. I've been wanting to play with this, so this is a perfect time.
It is like there's this, it's so funny. There's this, the bread and butter of when you think like classic Microsoft Office tools. It is like the new one of many in what I would call the newer line of family. There's things like Sway, there's Power Apps, I think comes into that family. But Power BI is like the evolution, if you will, of Excel. They're not the same thing, like at all. It's more for data visualization, and it can like visualize anything. You'll see when we get into the tool. I mean, it can import sources from pretty much anywhere. And if you can drag and drop and click some boxes, you can do quite a bit of damage with creating some reports in there as well.
And now I've already installed it, and apparently I made the mistake. If you go into the Windows Store and you search for Power BI, there is apparently more than one Power BI. So I guess we could...
Yeah, there's the app, and then there's the desktop, the desktop app, and then there's like, how do I mean to say this? There's the app, and then there's like the full desktop experience. And so the desktop experience gives you like an editor and things like that to be able to create custom reports and that sort of thing. Whereas the app is a cross-platform app that can run like on various different devices, tablets, and things like that for viewing your reports. And similarly, we didn't talk about that, but there's also a mobile offering of Power BI. So the report we're going to create today, once we end up publishing it to the Power BI service, you could actually take it on the go, if you will, and view it from an app on your phone.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Yeah.
So really we're talking about like almost like an Acrobat viewer versus an Acrobat.
Yeah, that works. I was never privy enough to actually use the full Acrobat. I don't know. I'm one of those people. I never had that license. I've only used the reader. So, but I get what you're trying to say. I've always wanted to author a PDF. So what we'll do, so this is the end goal is going to end up here in Power BI, but for us to get there, we're going to experiment a little bit with the stream analytics in the cloud. So we'll actually be creating another job. It's going to seem similar to yesterday, but you want to think about these as two different things. The stream analytics job that we created yesterday runs on the device, and it's like a super filter. It filters out all that object detection data every 15 seconds, pushes it to our IoT Hub. What this job is going to do, it lives in the cloud. It does not live in the device. And it merely forwards all data that comes into the IoT Hub to a Power BI output sync. And so we'll show how to get that all set up shortly here.
All right, so the first thing we got to do is create a stream analytics job. And that's not the on IoT Edge one, is it?
Well, actually, before we do this, we need to do one more thing. We need to create a Power BI workspace. So I think we've gone ahead just a little bit. So no worries there. Yeah, if we head over to the module 5.1. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen here. When I look at the screen, it's like a little bit delayed. I've been looking in the wrong place here the last few minutes. So yes, for whatever reason, I've lost your desktop in OBS Ninja. That's okay. I can sort of see where we're at. Okay, so
learn module.
So that'll tell you a little bit about what Power BI is, but then what we're going to do is actually create a workspace. Now, what a workspace is essentially a place to store your work, if you will, in Power BI. So these consist of things like data sets, which is the data that you actually have available to use for your reports, the actual reports that would then make use of the data sets, and then this thing called a dashboard that can then make use of reports and also allow you to do some additional features like being able to query it live, as we'll see. So you'd alluded to this NLP sort of thing. And yes, we can use like natural language to essentially ask questions of data once we get it into our data set. So one thing that's important here, the naming is super important for this step. So you will want to follow the naming convention as it's described in the documentation. The reason for that is we're going to use a template later. And that template is going to be very much coupled.
Oh, it's going to already have that name baked in.
Exactly. And I think there's a way to change it. I'm sure there is a way, but I know that it will work if we keep the names intact. So my apologies if you wanted to use a different name.
That's
I
all right.
haven't figured that out yet.
We can create as many as we want. Until there's like, 6 million Power BI workspaces under the Microsoft account. Not available. So I guess.
Oh, is that because I used that name?
All right. So I guess we will learn how to change it. So we'll just use Jetson.
That works. That works. Yeah. And there is a fix to change it. I'll show you how to do that.
Now, this is only a conflict because Paul and I are sharing the same Power BI, right?
Exactly. So because we work for the same company, we kind of have the same instance, and I use this name. One of the other things, I'm happy to delete mine. That's another option here too.
I mean, if that gets us moving faster.
Yeah, let me do that. I think that'll be a little quicker. Logging into my account right now. I don't know when it'll relinquish it. You know what? I want to show people how to change this anyway. So yeah, roll with a new name.
Okay, perfect.
It's not too hard to fix.
Okay.
And here I thought Power BI was going to be the happy path session of our 5-part series. Here we are, first issue. It's always right when we start, but we'll get through it and hopefully give you guys when we solve the gnarly issues. Hopefully it helps document in case you encounter them as well.
Well, I tell people all the time that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, you make dumb mistakes all of the time.
And so,
right.
So now you've created the workspace. So now we'll go ahead and create the Stream Analytics job.
My job doesn't matter, right?
The job name does not matter. No, so not at all.
I'm just going to name it the same as my Power BI dashboard. All right, or workspace rather.
If you wanted to give it a descriptive name, it will eventually be a forwarder. So, I often call mine like Power BI or IOT Hub to Power BI or something to that effect. But it doesn't matter what you actually name it here.
Put that in US. And last time we created one of these yesterday, we did Edge. So today we're doing Cloud. How many streaming units?
Cheaper here for those watching. So that streaming units, that'll actually save you a little bit of money if you change that down to 1 instead of 3. And we will not choose the secure all option.
All right.
Yeah, we'll just go straight ahead there. And now that you've got that up, you should be able to start just like we did yesterday. We're going to create our inputs first, and then we will create our outputs. Now, the naming does matter here because our query, just like yesterday, is going to actually reference some named inputs and outputs. So we will want to keep that intact in this step. So let's do IoT Hub for the stream input type. And it should give you an option for which to select, I guess, an existing IoT Hub. You will want to go with the one that we have created essentially prior to this. So if you were following along in the previous modules, of course, reuse the same IoT Hub. And that name is very important here. Of course, you could change this. You would just have to change the way that they're referenced in the query.
Which isn't too much of a pain, but I don't think we want people to sit here and watch us, tweak names of things in queries.
Right.
So, okay. And IoT Hub owner, messaging. Anything else we need to change in here? We are JSON.
That looks good to me. Yeah, that's good. That's it. Yep, we'll leave it as is there.
We're just going to use our default consumer group.
Oh, so the best practice here would actually be to create a new consumer group, and we did skip that step. So that was up a little bit higher. I'll show you how to do that if you want to create one. If you want to create a new one.
We created one yesterday too, so I don't think we're using the default one. We're using this TSI one for our other job.
Yeah, and I'll show you, we can. It's actually a little different here because we're going to create it on the IoT Hub itself. So let's open up a new tab and bring up your IoT Hub, and we'll quickly go through that. We'll create a new one just because it's the right way to do this. I want to make sure that people.
Yeah, and to fill everybody in on why we're doing this. This is going to consume events that are being fed to it, and a consumer group is kind of an individual reader of that data, and they track where they are in the logs separately. So if we reuse a consumer group here, we have two jobs reading the same data, so then both jobs don't see all messages.
Right, so it allows you to have I guess a unique way of just determining where you are in the message stream as it's coming through. And so once you get there, and this is documented, by the way, I think we just accidentally scrolled down a little past it. You'll head to your IoT Hub, and under settings on the left, there should be an option for built-in endpoints. And this is where you can define consumer groups, essentially. I don't know what the limit is there, but
let's call this one Power BI.
Or we can use SAS. I think that's what we use in the docs. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You can call it Power BI if you want.
Okay, so we should be set here. I am going to have to close that so that we get the new list. And
yep, and this should now reflect that change.
And messaging, IoT Hub owner, consumer group, SAS. Are we going to set a partition key?
That will not be necessary here.
Okay.
And that should be it. And it's funny, you could use that default consumer group. It's just like, I don't suggest.
The likelihood you're going to accidentally reuse it is high.
It's the highest of all of them, yeah. And if you end up having two apps that are using the same consumer group, then you might start missing data in one app or the other because they're not in sync. So that's the input, and now we're going to create the output sync, which will essentially be, and we do want to call this Stream Analytics Output. That naming will be important here.
Is this Power BI?
Yes, and so if you really wanted to dig into what is the reason for us using Stream Analytics here? Because it is a pathway to get live data into Power BI. That is why. So it's going to seem like there's some duplicative effort here. Well, why can't we just go from the IoT Hub to Power BI? And I don't know why. You can't. You have to have a Stream Analytics job because it has the appropriate abilities essentially to speak to the Power BI service.
I'm removing this off the screen just because.
Oh.
Well, technically, I do have this little fun thing too.
Ah, nice. So you can censor.
Yeah. Oh, why is this not working?
Uh-oh.
I think there was a update to one password, and my browser extensions aren't also updated. So Paul gets to peek.
It is that time of year where the password resets occur.
All right. Now we got to wait for my 2FA message.
So if you are wondering, he's just because he selected the Power BI sync, he's getting a prompt right now that's asking him to authenticate against the Power BI service. And so this is a corporate instance of Power BI, so it's of course locked down with two-factor authentication and all that good stuff.
Azure Stream Analytics. There we go. Okay. What do we need? Do we need a specific name for our aliases and dataset names?
Yes, the output alias you will want to name according to the documentation, which I believe is Stream Analytics Cloud Output. That'll be the alias.
I know I just saw this. Oh,
and now
I literally copied it here.
Yeah, now that I think about it, it's actually not going to matter that we named your workspace different. I had to think about that. What does matter is that your output alias and your data set name match. So this will be this data set name. If you want everything to just work out the box once we get to the Power BI template, you'll want to keep the name the same. And that is that will be Intelligent Video Analytics Space Data Set.
Data. Okay. And then
and data set with a lowercase s, and then the table name will be Intelligent Video Analytics Table. So approximately the same thing. So
the table name is hold on. So the table name is the same as this.
Table name is table name is in the step above that, the one you just that with table at the end of it. There's definitely a delay.
Wait a second.
Eric, I'm watching you on the Twitch stream.
No, I'm trying to figure out because it's going to be in the query, right?
No, this is not part of the query.
Oh,
the
okay.
only part that's going to be referenced in the query is the alias name. So what you're doing here, that's a good thing to call out. The data set is going to end up as the Power BI data set that's going to live in your Power BI workspace.
Mm-hmm.
And the table name is going to be the internal table that's attached to that data set.
Gotcha. Now, you don't need normal table naming conventions from a standard database here. You can use the same spaces from the things
Correct.
that we... So we would just name it this.
Waiting to see the update here.
Oh, the Intelligent Video Analytics.
Yeah, so it's Intelligent Video Analytics Table, just as specified in the instructions there.
That's weird. Like just coming from a background using databases to have database names with spaces and crap, you know.
Right.
Or with table names rather.
And then finally, for the authentication mode, you will want to change that to user token. That is important. And once that's set up, you essentially have the outputs ready. So next we will copy in the query. And this query is really simple. In fact, this is not nearly as gnarly as the one we looked at yesterday. This is a simple forwarder. So it's basically just going to...
there we go. It's like I know I saw the link for the query. There we go.
Yeah, if you examine that one a little close, it should make sense. So from our input alias, which is the IOT Hub, output that into the Stream Analytics Cloud output alias that we just made. And essentially what that query expands into is forward data from IOT Hub to PowerBI Dataset is what that's doing.
Okay, so we've got that into our Stream Analytics job. That's going to be querying the IoT Hub data and pushing that out to our cloud output, which is then a Power BI source, so to speak.
And you'll notice that now after you save that, I was mentioning this yesterday, that when you save, sometimes the icons will change for the inputs and outputs.
Oh, yeah.
Your output now has like a Power BI icon next to it on the left there.
Yeah.
Just fun to note. It kind of helps you designate. So if you hit test query now, I think what it'll do, it'll actually start operating on the data that's coming through your hub.
So we don't have any data. Please make sure the input source is data, then try again. Where's our input?
As long as data is flowing, and I wonder if that's something we might have to just wait a little bit for it to come in, or maybe we have to start the job, but let's see. All of that looks good. Named it IoT Hub input. Test it. There's a test button up there on the upper left under input details. I'm sorry. Yep. Make sure that that returns a good result.
Connection succeeded.
All right, that's what we want. Let's try to test the query again. And if not, I'm just going to assume that it might need to start before we can actually get data.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
Still no data.
Okay. Yeah, when I tested this, it seemed to work. So let's start the job and then see if that actually starts forwarding data over. We'll know shortly. So to do that, if you click over there on Overview on the left-hand side, you should be able to start the job. And let's start the job output now. And this will take a minute or so to start. But what we can then do is head over to your workspace that you created on powerbi.microsoft.com. And once that job starts, you'll notice that a data set is going to get created over there. So right now, it does not look like you have anything in there. But if you see that data sets or a section for data sets, you should be able to click that shortly after this job's run for a few moments. Like I said, it could take a minute or so.
And now this is running on the device, right?
No, this is running in the cloud. Good, and it's good to call that point out. So this is building out essentially the cloud infrastructure piece of this to mirror data from the hub to the Power BI output sync.
Now, how's that work? Because remember, we talked about the way all of this was designed. Everything can be run on the device itself, and we can be offline intermittently, and then sort of come back online, and the data kind of be pulled up into the cloud infrastructure. Is that also true for this job?
So this job has no awareness that there's any device out there. The only thing it knows is that it's getting fed data from the IoT Hub, which is in complete contrast to the Stream Analytics job running on the edge. They're two totally separate entities doing totally separate things.
Okay, let's see. Do we have a data set? We still have no data set.
We should get one shortly.
Our job is running. IoT Hub input.
And so long as our hub is pushing messages, it should eventually hydrate. So.
And anybody who has questions, feel free to ask them while we're doing this stuff. Sometimes there's a little waiting while we wait for stuff to start up or data to pump, and we're happy to answer questions along the way. Let's
check the query real quick. Just to wonder if it'll give us the option to test it again. Maybe if there's...
Okay, let's see.
Still no.
It looked right though. Into Stream Analytics Cloud. Output from IoT Hub input. Let's check our output. Stream Analytics Cloud output. That all looks right.
It looks right to me. And the fact that it has the icons there, so like the one is an IoT Hub icon, the other is a Power BI, makes it seem like this is set up correct. So, well, it lets you test the query again. I'm just curious. I know these jobs can take a while, but it's definitely been up long enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's run test query again. This is the concerning part where it keeps saying that there's no data coming through from the hub. That's interesting because we did create the new consumer group, right? And that got saved, I hope. Yeah, it had to have gotten saved. How much throughput can I expect from a single unit of stream analytics? That's a great question, Aaron. I'm going to bring up the documentation there to make sure we can answer that question accurately.
Oh, you don't want to guess?
Oh, not this one. No, this one. So what a streaming unit actually is represents the number of compute resources that are essentially assigned to your job. And so what I'm thinking here is, if you have a larger job, of course, the more resources you apply there, the faster it can go. But how do you actually break that down? Like, what can one single one use? There's a whole article on this. Apparently, it's so complex here. I'll paste that over to you in Slack, Eric. Let's.
So one thing that is of interest here is in this query, our output, its icon is basically grayed out.
Into Stream Analytics, what did you name the output by chance? I wonder if there's maybe not a typo there.
In the output, wait.
So Aaron, the answer to your question, we'll paste that link as well into the chat. It's actually complex. I don't want to just start reading this off here.
Oh, let me check this real quick. No,
but essentially what you do is you would run with X amount of streaming units, and you can actually see the performance of that within the Azure portal. And if you notice that that's spiking too high, you would go ahead and adjust it accordingly to get it down.
It says to start with 6 SUs for queries that don't use partition by.
Oh, wow. I know I got away with this using one streaming unit, so that shouldn't be the bottleneck we're facing right now.
Well, we're partitioned too.
Yeah, we're getting a message every 15 seconds. So.
It says the output succeeded too. So input's good, output's good, query looks right. Where is our issue?
Let's go back to the query. I think you were on to something there with that icon. It's not grayed out. It's the Power BI icon next to it. There's like 3 bars.
Yeah, it's just super light, almost faded into the background.
Let's and I guess it says you can't edit it while it's running. And what happens if you hit test query again?
Yeah, same issue. So
let's stop the job.
This is just interesting though, because our output is named appropriately, our input is named appropriately. We can test both of them, and they all work.
Yep. Yeah, everything looks good to me. Yeah, let's stop the job and see if we can't get it to pump some data out in the test functionality. That seems to be holding us up right now.
Well, there's also data not getting here. Nothing.
Let's do a couple things. Once you get that stopped, we'll change the consumer group, because I wonder if that, like, it's just something weird, like it's just wasn't active or something at the time that we created this. Maybe it was too fast. I don't know. Something seems out of sync though. Everything that you've typed in looks word for word good and kosher. So yeah, let's Let's head back to the query.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, everything looks right here.
Yep, that's the same query. Yep, let's go ahead and test it. See what that says.
Input IoT Hub input. The interesting thing here is it brings it all lowercase.
Ah, well, that could be a clue. Let's head back to the input. Let's recreate the input. That's what's seeming like is the problem. So let's go ahead and delete it. And then we'll do this over again. That's what I'm feeling like happened here. It's almost like we just encountered like a blip.
Let's try lowercase, because that seems to be what it's trying to use. That is our IoT Hub. It is the messaging endpoint. Consumer group. Let's use our SAS. And
all of that looks good. And truth be told, the capitalization shouldn't matter. I know when I tested this a couple days ago, I used the capitals. So that's pretty odd. Added IoT Hub input. Okay.
now,
And you'll just need to change the query part to reflect the change you made.
IoT Job. Okay.
And see, it's smart enough. It's totally linked it up there. Yeah, no, it knows that that's the one you're talking about. Well, and there we go. We've demonstrated how you can change the names in case you want to.
I think we need to restart this though.
No, you should. No, that should have produced data. Let's go look at your IoT Hub. Let's make sure that thing is pushing data. There's something wrong here.
All right. Oops.
Let's scroll down. Just make sure this IoT Hub is healthy. Which it should. You got an S1. There's no reason why this shouldn't be forwarding data. That's okay. Scroll down a little more. Make sure we're getting some device to cloud messages.
This is 9 a.m.
Okay,
this is UTC.
Something seems wrong on your device. I don't think that your device is sending data to the IoT Hub, if I had to guess.
All right. Let's see what's running. We've got Deep Stream, the camera tagging module. We've got IoT Edge Hub here.
Do a sudo service IoT Edge status. Let's see if there's anything there. No, that says running. Let's do a restart on it just for fun. That is a little odd. I would think that you would be getting a few more messages than that. Just to roll that out.
I could also be saturating my connection here too.
Let's see. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna switch over here. So we're just gonna wait for this to pop back up. And
all right, let's head back to the IoT Hub. I want to see. I just want to see a few more things there in your portal. This is not behaving as expected, for sure. Yeah. Something is latent here.
I want to see something real quick too. Because I don't even see that stream updating. Weird. So I don't see, even on the live stream, I see an outdated version of my video capture device, which is totally freaking weird.
We might have a little bit of a technical difficulty here.
Yeah, I mean, that goes with the territory. We've had that every day. Yeah, this is weird. Because it's just sort of locked there. That could also be the device. I'm just restarting this real quick.
Okay.
I love technical difficulties. All right, so yeah, why is that not? Oh, that's not what it was. I'm gonna pull this down here real quick and work on it.
Yeah, it's mentioning that you're frozen. We might need to come off the stream for a minute. Might have to restart this one.
Let's see. Oh, people are saying I'm completely frozen?
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Yeah, your face is frozen on the Twitch stream.
All right, let's restart this. Yeah, it's all frozen. All right, I'm going to close OBS and reopen it.
Okay.